Today's video was inspired by a couple of things that I've recently seen / have happened. The first being an incident that just yesterday, at the time of filming anyway, I was out in a group of friends and there were some new people I didn't know, but some people that I did know, and there was one girl, the rest were guys, apart from me of course, and I was out with that group, just met the girl, very, very lovely, but immediately she had a hawk eye for a certain something on my possession, which was my very, very recently purchased a new YSL Lulu bag in small. In case you're interested, there are videos and links down below. So she noticed my bag. I wear this bag quite often anyway, but obviously she doesn't know me. We'd briefly talked anyway before she noticed my bag. She made a beeline basically for my bag and was basically just giving lots of kind of what I perceived to be passive aggressive kind of comments about my bag. I had just brought some drinks over in a different carrier bag and I had this bag over top, and she said that I was a walking oxymoron because I had this YSL bag and some other drinks of wine on me, and I couldn't help but laugh anyway. It was a bit true. She kept talking about my bag, like, oh, you've got a YSL bag, even though YSL bags on the face of it are relatively more accessible compared to the likes of, Chanel bags and things. Another bag being my Coco handle, which I usually get comments about, but I'll talk about that later. That incident is one of many that have happened to me in the recent past, and it's probably not the last time it will happen to me either, amongst many of you other luxury lovers out there, I'm sure, as well. But then that incident combined with seeing recently Sophie Chohet's couple of videos recently on, why she doesn't bring luxury bags to work, or the perception of women compared to men buying luxury. I thought it was such an interesting and pertinent discussion. I love these types of discussion videos and topics, and it's stuff that I'm trying to incorporate also more into my channel because it's actually something that I'm very, very interested and passionate about talking, because to be quite honest, I fail to comprehend why people's reasons for not liking luxury, be that it's too vulgar, etc., or it's too flashy, bother people personally so much that it makes people like Sophie or other people that have been participating in the discussion, feel like they can't wear the luxury, whether that be to work or other social occasions, for fear of how they get perceived or how they make others feel, etc., etc. So I wanted to make a video about this today, talk a little bit more about my personal experiences, share maybe some insight as to maybe why this behavior exists, what it represents, and also what I'm kind of doing about it going forward. What I'll start this video off is by, I guess, the categories of people that comment about my luxury goods, or I guess just in general, just key themes. And I will just disclaimer, up front, these are my personal opinions, it's happened to me, so this is kind of my worldview, but if it happens to be consistent with yours, or if you have any more additions to share, please do let me know below. But I want to say first up, and you can say this is a general sweeping observation, there are two groups, or two camps that I notice the behavior happening in, and it's obviously work and in social, but both of those groups, it is majority women that comment. And I don't know why it is, but women feel very competitive with women. I think it's biologically programmed in us to be that way from an evolutionary perspective. Perhaps it's to do with the social climb. There's just something about women in the workplace in particular judge other women in the workplace a lot. I think, there's a whole other discussion I could go into about women in the workplace just without luxury involved at all. But also socially, I feel like this happens also particularly among women. I feel like for both groups, work and social, men are mostly oblivious to bags and designer brands. Some do, like, the nice Rolex and jewelry and things, but on the whole, men probably look more at the silhouette or the shape of a bag is what I've noticed. And women are very much, they know the brands, it's deeply ingrained in us from a young age to like Barbies and clothes and bags and shoes. And so women are more likely by that perspective to know these brands a lot more, know the value of these brands, know what it takes to get these brands, and they might be more aspirational to them than, say, a man who's probably more focused on, I guess you could say stereotypically, the car, the Rolex, the yacht, etc. Let's start with the workplace, and we'll talk about men and women. But these are just things that I've personally experienced in the workplace, and it's majority been women that have said these comments. And I will talk about a particular incident that happened to me a couple of years ago. And actually, this particular individual in my workplace, I had to report because she was a bully, frankly. And I don't stand for bullying. And one of the ways that she tries to bully me is to try and shame me personally and publicly in front of other colleagues about my bags. And can I just say that my collection at the time was not vast at all. You could say, oh my gosh, Mel, that's so uppity of you. But honestly, if she was going to shame me, you could shame me now and I'd probably get it. But back at the time, I think she was just looking to bully me in whatever way she wanted to do. And to be honest, water off a duck's back, I didn't care, because all that was doing is creating more reasons for me to report her anyway. But she basically would comment about my bags. I think it was the Prada Kahir bag at the time. We were on an away project abroad, and so I always kind of feel like my personal rule of thumb is I won't go into the office with, you know, lots of flashy things. Okay, I'll have the odd item, accessory, but I usually dress the rest of it very, very plain, and I'm, you know, so as not to appear vulgar if people were to perceive it that way. But I had a bag. It was very, very hot. I think it was probably like 30 degrees. We all went for a weekend meal before obviously things were going to start on the Monday. And I think she and I were alone for one bit, and then others joined. Other women also joined. And she commented about my bags, and she asked me how much my bag was, I think. And I don't think I necessarily answered her straight. But then she kept almost like trying to compete with me about the things that she has or how great she is. I'm like, okay, cool, good for you. Like, I don't care. Do what you want to do, sis. And then the other people joined later on, maybe for drinks or something. And then in front of everyone else, she was saying about a waste of money luxury is, and what is the most expensive bag or thing that you've ever bought, Mel? And I didn't answer that question. I can't even remember what I necessarily said word for word at the time, but I remember being taken aback quite a lot because I was thinking like, why are you mentioning this? This has nothing to do with what we're having a nice, enjoyable meal. It's totally out of context. Like, why are you talking about this? No one else is talking about this but you. And I noticed the key theme in the workplace also, like, these women also just stare at my bags. They stare, for example, I'm wearing the Tiffany key necklace at the moment, and it's very subtle, I want to say. You really have to know the brand to be able to understand what it is, and I guess how much it's worth by that extension. But I had so many women comment about my necklace. Oh my goodness, is that Tiffany? Oh, who bought you that? And it's just it's a weird vibe actually in the workplace, because obviously like I usually just wear very plain outfits, you know, black tops or blouses and jeans or trousers, kind of smart casual vibes. I really don't go into the office with designer handbags. The most I'll do is like the Chloe Faye bag that I have, very inconspicuous. You wouldn't really know what it is, but you know, there are some people who just make a beeline for whatever you're wearing, could be big or small, and you just make a comment. And you know, when someone just says, oh, nice necklace, they say it like it's the ugliest thing in the world, you know, like cute Mean Girls.
Oh my God, I love your skirt. Where did you get it?
It was my mom's in the 80s.
Vintage. So adorable.
Thanks.
That is the ugliest effing skirt I've ever seen.
So I've kind of noticed that theme amongst a lot of my female colleagues, and some will be more genuinely happy for me about it than others will. Some are a bit more passive aggressive about it. It's almost like they mentally dock points from you. And a lot of these women I notice are either peer level to me, and thus we earn similar amounts of money. But other people I've noticed are a little, just slightly more senior to me. And that's where I notice the real difference, because it's interesting. They won't comment about like other more senior women to them in the business or in other roles in other businesses with those goods. They will see that as aspirational. But it's interesting they comment about me because I'm maybe a bit more junior or someone a bit too peer level. And I notice actually then on the flip side for men in the workplace, I've had a couple of comments from men, but they mostly comment, like I kind of alluded to earlier, they like the shape, they like the look, they like the color. It's a lot more just like descriptive. It's like, oh, I like your bag. That's cool. And they won't even notice what the brand is. Like, I'm pretty sure 99% of men won't know YSL, what that even stands for, let alone that it's a designer brand. A lot of the guys, at least in corporate world, they love to go golfing, they go yachting, they own their own yachts, they own holiday homes, they have fast cars that depreciate in value as soon as you drive them out the door. A lot of people, women and men alike, find that to be very aspirational in comparison. and it's quite interesting that way. And then on the flip side, for social, I've noticed that amongst women, again, it's usually the women that aren't my close friends. It's the women who are acquaintances or women who I meet through other, namely guy friends, men, that have a problem with my luxury goods. And it's kind of interesting because that's obviously in a social occasion where I feel usually a bit more comfortable wearing my designer bags, for example. But, you know, they usually give a comment about it, the brand, or they go, oh, you have this bag, or, oh. And some of it will be like, oh, wow, it's nice. But then some people are like, ugh, it's nice, why do you have it? And there's been countless instances where this has happened to me. It's not even worth me reeling them off to you right now. But I would say in person, it happens a lot more than necessarily, you know, on socials. Because I feel like on socials, you really do reach the niche that you want to be in. I think the luxury community as a whole, obviously like-minded individuals get together, we congratulate each other, we celebrate in each other's successes when we add something to our collection. Although, having said that, I will say that I have had a couple of YouTube trolls, at least for YouTube, but not necessarily Instagram. Instagram is, you know, I guess I hashtag correctly and it comes on the right pages. But for some reason on YouTube, people put themselves through the pain of watching luxury videos that they clearly have an issue with, but they comment. So you do get a couple of trolls just there in terms of the personal or social element. But on the whole, I feel like a lot of those passive-aggressive comments or judgments, they come from people that I don't necessarily know. But honestly, I think it's mostly a theme among women, which is a shame really, isn't it? Because we already have enough going against us already as it is in society and from history, and just, you know, to have women compete with women or having problem with other women succeeding or buying whatever they want with their own money, I think that's quite unfortunate. And I do think it's a truth because of evolutionary kind of reasons. And I guess we can talk a little bit about the reasons that I personally think this is happening. So one of the big reasons that I think women in the workplace kind of judge other women for their luxury purchases is because I think, like I alluded to earlier, there's very few women in high up positions, and I think that alone is you're kind of vying for the same position, even though it's definitely not the same position that you're going for with another woman. And for many people, you know, who aren't necessarily too educated on the designer brands or even the person buying the designer brands' intentions or interests, they might think it's just a vulgar show of wealth. They might see it as I guess you could say, a bag. Whether you like it or not, whether you just love the shape or the colour or design, you could say that this is a kind of signal of wealth. You can say it is a societal marker of your positioning in the world. And you could say that you know it's part of social climbing. The better the brand of bag, the more affluent you are potentially. And I think among women, we are still in a period today in society where that is seen to be very kind of crass. Whereas for men, I think for centuries it has been built up that men build stature, they are the breadwinners, Wolf of Wall Street kind of vibes. And I think in popular culture, the fact that the guys are flashing their cash and their fast cars and women are just twerking in the background, I don't know, that probably doesn't help that image a lot. We are getting progressively better, but I do think women read a lot more into their emotions, into their surroundings. And I think one of the things that other women might read into is because they just see it as the other woman is maybe portraying some sort of social hierarchy or saying, look at me, look at my bag, or look at my clothes, I'm better than you, which is absolutely not the case. And I really do hope that it's not true. But that's one of the things that I imagine is going on in their heads. Whereas men, because they're oblivious to the brand and they don't look into the prices and things, whereas I think women probably do, they'll buy Rolexes, expensive yachts and things like that, but other people won't bat an eyelid. Men and women alike, really, because it's seen as, you know, as a man, you're very successful in the world if you have all these things. It's not necessarily vulgar. And I guess because there's a whole evolutionary background of men providing for their family, not just for themselves, that I think it's a marker for women of success in a man. Whereas for a woman to have that is quite a manly thing to possess, right? And I think some women who don't then have that will probably see that as a bit of an affront to them and maybe threatening, is what I'm assuming. And then I think similarly from the women in the workplace to women in social networks, I think a lot of the women that I meet are through men Usually, I'm kind of like a laddish woman, like I'm one of the boys in a way. One of the boys who has a love for bags. They, I guess, might see it as competitive again, jealousy, potentially. But honestly, when you put it into perspective, both the women in the workplace and social, it's interesting because they'll say these kind of things at drinks or at social events where I won't necessarily partake too much in a partying or just going out for random sporadic trips. I don't necessarily do that. I'm very frugal in other aspects of life, whereas other people are not. And I wish people would be a lot more educated on, some of the reasons behind people buy these things, or even the person themselves who is wearing it, and to make a sweeping judgment. But for me personally, when it comes to having these comments, I just kind of let it roll off my back. It is annoying to hear them. You just spent your hard-earned money on something that you really like, that you see value in. I don't know about you, but I love, for example, this YSL bag because it's practical, it looks good, it's really quality, fits a lot of stuff in, multifunctional, and it was a really, really good price. I got it for a discount, and I think I deserved a treat because I wanted to get it and it's my money. Similarly with the Coco handle, it's again a bag that I had so many people stare at when I just bought it and I was wearing it a couple of times. And people will look at it, but they're saying stuff through their eyes, not necessarily through their mouth. You know that when you see it. Similarly for this, I loved it for its look and its price. Definitely for tax-free prices, cannot complain. And not everyone will understand why I need so many bags for different occasions, but I will also never understand why men need 5 million different kinds of expensive luxury watches. Unfortunately, more often than not, people take it as a personal affront, and I do think that's the wrong attitude. I do think, if anything, it should be aspirational for you to see things that you might want. Try and learn something from that person that has something that you want, and this could be applied to anything in life, not just the material, but also in terms of the professional or aspirational in life for where you want to go to. But until then, I have at least, whether you could say subconsciously or consciously, made an effort, at least at the workplace, to definitely tone down what I wear. I don't really bring in designer bags, like I said, a few that are inconspicuous. I have a whole wardrobe dedicated to work, which is kind of basic looking, but smart. And so people will look at you and they will think she is put together, but not too put together. However, what I will say is if I have a nice pair of shoes or a nice accessory that I want to wear, I actually am not too bothered by what people think. I will still wear it if I want to, and if people want to make a comment about it, then they can do. Because actually, if there is a workplace full of passive-aggressive people who are very jealous and are potentially bullies, like the one person, the cartoon character that I interacted with years ago, then actually I don't want to work for those people, because the bag that they are talking about to you or behind your back to other people, that is just a symbol or a metaphor basically for other things that they want to talk about. It's just an excuse, really, and they will find, if people don't like you, they will find other ways to talk about you and try and tear you down. And I just don't personally agree with, I think let's meet in the middle. I don't personally agree with, kowtowing to conform to other people to make them feel better about themselves, if that is truly their reasoning as to why they don't like luxury. Everyone spends their money differently. Everybody is born different. They all have different interests, and that's totally fine and that's totally cool. And I think if people are to shame you for something that you just like and you're not harming anybody, I don't think you should be in a crowd with these kind of people, because you will never accelerate in life with people who are already like this. I think obviously pick a good balance between, your luxury and your normal mix of clothing. I think there's nothing wrong with wearing something something a bit more subtle or something that you really like, and accessorizing that with plainer items. I always try and mix high end with high street, or other quality brands that are a bit more mid-range, like Reese or Caramillin, because I do feel in some ways that in the workplace, if people do have cultivate this image of you, I think culturally sometimes it will differ in other maybe geographies but at least in the UK, I do feel that there's an instance of if people judge you a lot for these kind of things, they will see you as like, well, you have a lot of this stuff, you're clearly quite well off, so we're just not going to promote you because you have enough of that where it is, or you don't deserve it because you're very vulgar. And it's an unfortunate truth, but it happens, and we must acknowledge the world for what it is, and we need to work with it. Take it with a pinch of salt, right? Whatever you want to do, up to you, but know that this is a byproduct. If you keep wanting to wear lots of luxury things, that people will think this of you, and they're not necessarily all that educated. But having said that, do you want to be working in an environment where people are not very cognizant of other people's backstories, why they have this item, how hard they work? I mean, I've seen stories online about people having strongly worded letters given to them by colleagues who are offended by the luxury goods, which I find absolutely crazy. Like, isn't that such a waste of your time to do things like that? And similarly with social, I mean, social you have a bit more control over, or as to who you hang out, whereas work you might have less control over. But even in the same vein, I like to just think water off a duck's back. It doesn't really affect me. I will distance myself from people who are just naturally just competitive with me. And I think if you show that you don't care too much about these people in your social circles, then I think naturally they will probably stop caring after a while, because it's just not affecting you in the way that they want it to. So those are my thoughts on luxury in the workplace, luxury in general, being shamed. Certainly it will affect my behavior going forwards a little bit, but every day that passes, I care a little bit less about what other people think. And I really do think that is the best way going forward. So anyways, please share your thoughts down below. I will see you in my next video.